We're continuing to follow groundbreaking news out of the Supreme Court, where justices ruled President Trump, for now, cannot fire Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook from her position. However, in a separate case, the justices granted him even more power to fire other federal employees. The president just moments ago posting about Cook, writing this: "The Cook lawsuit, having to do with her suitability in sitting on the board of the Federal Reserve, was sent back by the Supreme Court on a strictly procedural basis. We will take appropriate action immediately to make sure that someone who has committed wrongdoing will not be making vital decisions concerning the welfare of the United States of America." Let's bring in MS NOW business analyst Ron Insana and former chair of the Council of Economic Advisors under President Biden, Jared Bernstein. Ron, I'll start with you and this Truth Social post that we just got from the president, clearly threatening, essentially, Lisa Cook here. Her problems are not over. What do you see coming down the pike here?
Well, it's also interesting that current DNI head Bill Pulte, who initiated this investigation, if you will, when he was head of the Housing Authority, said that he believes she's going to be indicted for mortgage fraud as well. So we've had two now, obviously the president and Bill Pulte, leading obviously and head government officials, say that this is not yet done. So for the moment, the Supreme Court has preserved the independence of the Federal Reserve by suggesting the president cannot, by whim, remove a Federal Reserve governor and interfere, at least from a historical perspective, with the interest rate policy decisions that the Federal Reserve makes. But it also suggested that this has yet to be adjudicated. And so I think it is a for now decision, and we'll see what comes out of this. Most experts agree, Antonia, that she did not commit mortgage fraud, but it does not mean that the government will not take this case up again and try to get to the point where the president has cause, if you will, to remove her, which would then send shockwaves through financial markets and also open the door to other removals. Jay Powell, now governor, former Fed chair, the president has accused of mismanaging the Fed's renovations, another potential cause for removal. So we have to watch this very closely as this case evolves.
Jared, have you been at all surprised this morning by the quick reaction from Wall Street, the stock market? I'm kind of reacting to what they clearly saw initially as positive news here. Anyone watching this president and also observing what's been happening with Bill Pulte in recent days and weeks, you could very easily guess they were going to try something else, that there could be continued issues here for Lisa Cook, even if most assumed that this was going to be the act, a protective act from the Supreme Court to treat the Fed separately from how they're treating federal agencies right now. But is the business community reacting too positively too quickly here?
I don't think so. I haven't really been surprised by anything I've seen this morning because this was the expectation, especially if you listen to the arguments made by the government, which were really not very well accepted by the court. I mean, I was a little bit surprised that it was 5-4 instead of a bigger number on the majority. But the other thing that I took note of was just how dismissive the majority decision was of the president's position. They talked about not only, this is a quote, not only the fact of independence, but also the appearance of independence is key to the Federal Reserve design. They talked about the nation's tradition of central banking protected from political interference. They called the government's case half-hearted and basically kind of slapped away the accusations from the government side that Ron just took you to, which were just unequivocally thin. Yes, of course, they're going to make statements like you just heard from Trump. They might come back and try to fight to take over at the Fed. But it's a good day for Fed independence, and markets are recognizing that.
Well, why is the independence so key to the Fed, but the independence seems to not really matter anymore for all these other federal agencies that in our earlier conversations essentially touched almost every aspect of Americans' lives?
Are you asking me?
Jared, yes, you.
Yeah, sorry, because I'd love to hear Ron hold forth on that too. Great question, and a bit of a head scratcher, because frankly, from my perspective, independent regulators should be independent regardless of the status of their agency. Now, it is the case that the Federal Reserve, I'm probably being a little American chauvinistic here, but I think it's the case that the American Federal Reserve is the most important central bank in the globe. The chair of the Fed, somewhat of a chief economist for the world, not to disrespect other central banks, but that's just how important, how dominant that bank is, how dominant the dollar is, how dominant our debt market and our interest rate decisions are. So I understand to some degree the carving out, but I agree with the thrust of your question. When you take away the independence from all these other regulators, you're taking down a set of guardrails that are really important. And the last thing I want to do is have the corrupt Trump administration set free in a world where those regulators don't have those guardrails.